The Ruby Franke case has already been one of the most disturbing scandals we've ever seen. But now, Hulu's latest documentary is shedding even more light on the abuse, manipulation, and dark secrets behind the 8 Passengers YouTube channel. In this video, I'm breaking down Hulu's documentary, what they got right, what they got wrong, and the chilling details that will make you question how this went on for so long. Was Ruby Franke the mastermind, or was she a victim herself under Jodi Hildebrandt's control? Hello everyone, and welcome back to Lindsay Unfiltered. And today we will be diving deep into the Ruby Franke and 8 Passengers documentary review that just aired on Hulu. It was 3 episodes long, about 3 hours worth of content, and it digs a little bit deeper into some of the behind the scenes footage. We get to hear from Chad Franke, the oldest son, Sherry Franke, the oldest daughter, and Kevin Franke, Ruby Franke's ex-husband, about what was going on during that time, who Ruby was, and how their YouTube channel turned from a beacon of hope into a reckless disaster. If you like content like this that revolves around scandal, true crime, conspiracy with a twist of humor, make sure to hit that subscribe button. We're going to dig deep into this. This is all 3 episodes in one. I'm not going to break it up. I'm going to give it to you all right now, uncut and unfiltered. So the first episode was called Abundance. The Frankes are known to live in a place called Springfield, Utah. And this community is known for people being pristine, cookie cutter, and perfect. Why? A therapist on the documentary says it's because Utah is the beacon for the Mormon church. And Mormonism, in my opinion, aligns itself with perfection for Christ, right? If you step out of line, it's a big issue for the Latter-day Saints. And if you guys want to know more about the Latter-day Saints overall, I have an interview with someone who was in the Latter-day Saints. I'll tag that down below. So Hulu says that they have their hands on over 1,000 hours of unseen footage. They show some of the bleeper reels. Ruby can be seen screaming at her family in blooper reels. Ruby can be seen telling the children to pretend like they're happy. Ruby can be seen bribing the children for money, telling them this is their job, this is what they do now. She necessarily did not care if the kids weren't happy to be on camera. She offered them money, so they need to do their part of the job. Kevin Franke says that Ruby's sole ambition was to be a good mother. Outside of that, Ruby wanted everyone to know she was a good mother. So the culmination of this on a YouTube channel just seemed like the perfect plan. This is how 8 Passengers became created. Looking through some of that old footage, it seemed just like a family doing family things. Baking cookies, playing at home, doing this, doing that, having that genuine family time. Just had a camera rolling in the background. I did see that. The kids were truly wholesome to watch. The family dynamic was truly wholesome to watch in the beginning. And I think that's why they had such a huge following at first. Kevin thought that Ruby wanted him to appear as this, big, strong man and the lead of the household on the camera to their YouTube supporters. And Kevin was kind of like a geeky, quirky guy. He wasn't made for the camera, right? So he kind of sat back and let Ruby take the lead of the YouTube channel. And then she became micromanaging mom. Everything had to be ran by her. When talking to Kevin Franke, we hear about how he really wanted Ruby back in the day. I don't know when this was, in the 50s, the 30s. I'm just kidding. But she had so many guys lining up to be her boyfriend at the time that he found a chart that she had with all the guys' names on it, all the qualities that she wanted. Strong, protective, smells nice. And he went home and studied how to become the perfect man that Ruby Franke wanted. And that's how they got married, and that's how the 6 children came to follow. They started with this family vlogging. They thought they were teaching the world at large how to be a family unit. They thought they were spreading the gospel of God, being good, doing all of these things by just showing a positive family dynamic. And in some ways, sure they were. Ruby loved YouTube through and through. She was on it when it came to YouTube content, publishing these videos to her subscribers. she became a pro. And in becoming a pro, they hit 1 million subscribers. You know, they were featured by YouTube as like one of the families to look for, because there's a lot of families on this app. And the first episode almost had me in tears because it was truly, genuinely heartwarming. The kids were genuinely being kids. The happiness amongst each other was very heartwarming to see. Ruby's neighbors are on the documentary as well, and they said they were kind of annoyed with Ruby and the Frankes because they were always recording, and Ruby wasn't the nicest person. They were just always walking down the street recording their homes, this, that, and the third. Honestly, in my opinion, you have to respect people's jobs, and some of the neighbors seem to be a little nitpicky about the YouTube channel. Maybe they didn't understand that digital media was on the rise at the time. There is still this big fight about, is content creation a real job versus the 9-to-5 steel mill, blue collar boot pushing job. And it most definitely is. It requires you to wear many hats. It requires you to have your attention in a lot of places at once. And I don't think the people that believe it's not a job would believe it's a job until they tried it full time, right? Her neighbors were annoyed. You're always filming us. You're always filming our area. The older the kids got, they literally grew up on YouTube. They began getting disinterested in YouTube completely. Like, I don't want to deal with this, especially the older ones. We don't always want to be on camera. You always have a camera in our face. We don't want this. Ruby was bribing those kids with money to pay for those videos. Now, it was like $10, she said in the clip. I'm like, $10? Y'all are netting. They said their highest month was over $100,000 on YouTube. And she's just throwing $10 at the kids. I mean, they're just kids, but damn. She's like, does everybody want $10? I'm like, girl, you can keep that. Like, what do you want me to do? Like, go get some gum and some drinks? But $10 is $10 nonetheless. So Chad started exhibiting behavior problems. He did not like the way his mom was running the household with this YouTube thing. He ended up getting expelled from school. Ruby reached out to this woman named Jodi Hildebrandt. This is where we meet Miss Jodi Hildebrandt. Wow, wow, wow. Even though if you go online right now and type in Jodi Hildebrandt's name, there are reviews from 10 years ago telling you this woman is no one you want to work with. And I know they didn't work with her 10 years ago, so what memo did they miss? Oh, Sherry Franke, the eldest daughter, tried to tell them, hey, this lady has horrible reviews, but they didn't seem to care about their children. Chad had everything stripped from him. You name it. Game, phone, TV, bed, everything stripped. Because acting out behavior problems in that household came with serious consequences, right? Especially with Ruby. Kevin Franke says he had no idea this abuse was going to this extent. How did you not, sir? You saw your wife every day. You should have talked to her every night. You should have known. We go into episode 2, titled Distortion. Ruby changed the direction of her YouTube channel because people caught on to the fact that she was making her kids sleep on the floor for 7 months, threatening to decapitate teddy bears, didn't care if her kids were hungry because they had an obligation to do for themselves. She told them what they needed to do. If they didn't do it, she was kind of like, I gave you the instructions, you didn't follow them, fall into a pit on your own. She did not have any compassion for her kids, and her YouTube subscribers saw this. So they lost brand deals, they lost subscribers, they lost money. Ruby changed the direction of her YouTube channel to teach people how to parent their children after she was seen as an inadequate parent by the digital media. So let me get this straight. People are attacking you for the way that you're parenting. They say it's kind of cruel. You're kind of slamming the hammer down. And your response is to not apologize, not talk to your children about, hey, is this true? But to start teaching parenting classes to the very people that said you're doing too much when it comes to parenting. Bad idea. Everybody was in her comments for some time saying this is not going to end well. She's going to end up on a true crime show. The foreshadowing was crazy because of this woman, Jodi Hildebrandt. Kevin and Ruby both joined Connection. It was Ruby, and then it was Kevin. Kevin said it seemed like a man-hating club. There was a lot of women, but there was also a men's group. And at the top of that pinnacle, Jodi Hildebrandt. Cult 101. There's one person in charge. Is this a church? No. What is this? Is this a government? No. Then why is there one person up there telling you how to live your life? Telling you what the rules and laws of your life is going to be. Very, very cult-like. If not cult, why cult-shaped? It seemed to make Kevin a happier person. There were less problems in their marriage. Kevin was starting to feel like that alpha man he always wanted to be because Jodi put that into him. So they allegedly started seeing some benefits from this therapy. I found it funny that in episode 2, they talked about how in 2020 when coronavirus came, they legitimately thought it was the end of the world. They thought it was the second coming of Jesus. Now, me, personally, myself, I think everybody was afraid for their lives. Everybody was afraid for their lives. We didn't know how far Corona was going to go, and it went extremely far and took many lives. So to be paranoid about coronavirus, I'm not going to hit them too hard for that. They're not going to get too hard of a strike from me for that, because at that time, everybody was kind of paranoid. They just used it, tied it in with their faith a little bit. So I'm not really like, oh, how could you think it was the end of the world? For a lot of people, their world didn't. Ruby was in love with Jodi Hildebrandt. Kevin and Ruby believed that Jodi was called by God himself. She was the prophet. She was a Warren Jeffs to them. And that is when it's serious. And even watching the documentary, Chad had nothing bad to say about his mother. Chad had nothing bad to say about Jodi Hildebrandt. Chad still has love for them. And I feel like Chad, a part of him was forever changed. And he did have a deep connection to both of these women. For me, Chad still seems like he's holding on to the idea. In my unfiltered opinion, he seems like he's holding on to the idea that maybe this isn't all true. He has to go with what he's being told by his father, the government, whatnot. But I feel like deep down, he really had a connection with Jodi, and that to him manifests as this can't be true, in my opinion. They also talk about how Jodi moved in with Kevin and Ruby. They kicked Sherry out of her room for Jodi because Jodi was having delusions, and they were trying to exorcise the spirits out of Jodi. If she has been called by God and all of these things, you should be going to her for help. You should be asking her for deliverance, if that is the case. I felt like she used that as an excuse to get in that house. Can these attacks happen? Can people go through something called psychosis? Sure. That's when you bring them to a hospital. You don't try to do it yourself. And while in their house, Jodi would go through possessed trances. And she obviously needed a mental health examination. All these things that she had been going through, doing to folks over her life, maybe just were starting to eat at her. I will say that I think Kevin Franke is very honest throughout this interview. Very honest. I don't think he was lying at all. We're at the point where Jodi's in Ruby's house. And Ruby begins sleeping in the bed with Jodi to help with her delusions. I'm sorry, but this is way more than a platonic relationship. Sherry thinks it was. Kevin thinks it was. Way more. Way more. Think 2 + 2 does not equal 4 in this situation. This is the start of this whole thing getting kicked off. Chad said that he was kissing girls and watching adult movies. Ruby lost her mind. She said that's the reason why these spirits are attacking Jodi. So she tells him to leave. She also tells Kevin to leave. Their relationship isn't good at this point either. Just leave. Sherry was trying to reach out to her father to see what was going on. She was shunned too. So it was just the 4 youngest, Jodi and Ruby. And Kevin didn't reach out to his family for a year until he had to. Kevin stayed away because he truly believed that he would be able to save his marriage that way. He left his kids with those people. He left them. he left his children with those people for a year and just thought everything would be okay. He had full faith that everything would be okay until it wasn't. So episode 3 is titled Truth. The neighbors are starting to get concerned now. The kids aren't coming outside. Sherry shunned. The husband shunned. What's going on? You're going to raise all those kids by yourself now? The neighbors, the nosy neighbors with their binoculars are like, what the is going on with her? So apparently the punishment was getting worse as time went on while they were alone. CPS was even called by Sherry, and they were told there was nothing they could do. CPS began getting called because people were that suspicious. But there was nothing CPS could do to step in and see about these kids. Nothing. Until they were forced to do it. Kevin Franke couldn't do anything until he was forced to do it. CPS couldn't do anything until they were forced to do it, even though they were alerted. Until that day where that young boy knocked door by door, and asked someone to call the police to relieve him from this hell. He effectively saved his life and his siblings' lives in doing this. The wounds on their arms were being treated with a paste made of honey and cayenne pepper. They were being handcuffed, tied down with ropes and weights, kicked with boots, stabbed with cactus pokers, mop water dumped on their head. The most sickening part is Jodi and Ruby wanted to move them away to the middle of the desert where no one could see or alert to what they were doing. They thought these children were demonically possessed, and they were out to unalive them, allegedly. In my opinion, all of these things that I say in this are alleged, but she says it in her journal. I will fight this until you are unalive. Is Kevin Franke liable for all of this kicking off? Should Kevin Franke have stepped in and taken his kids? He's in a cult. He believes a certain way, and he truly trusted her. So where do we draw the line with Kevin Franke? Ruby calls Kevin and tells him to pick up his kids from the police station. Kevin's like, I haven't heard from you in a year. Oh my God, the kids are at the police station. Why? Oh, they're demonically possessed and lying. Kevin and Chad did accept the abuse at first, saying it was the right thing to do. They were that lost in the sauce of Jodi Hildebrandt until they found out that they had been brainwashed by family and friends coming to them and saying, look at this. That was a lie. That was a lie. Everything you've been told has been a lie. Sherry says she will never talk to her mother again. Chad believes that she should be in there until the children are at least 18 years of age. Kevin says he still loves her. He would never throw away the good memories for those. So you have a lot of conflicting views from 3 different individuals in this Hulu documentary. I did a poll with my audience, and over 93% said that Ruby Franke needs to be in jail for at least 15 years. It's sad how this happened. Incredibly sad, especially when you watch the first episode and see how wholesome those kids were and how much they loved their parents and their siblings and being kids, to turning into isolated prisoners. And I cannot wait to finish out Sherry Franke's book review for you guys. So stay tuned. Make sure to hit the subscribe button. The documentary was very good. I've been studying this case for a couple months now, so I know a lot of the material presented in the documentary, but there were some new things that I did not know about. So it was good, a good supplemental piece to have. Good interviews, good to hear from the family, and I really enjoyed it. What did you think about the documentary, and do you think Kevin Franke should be held liable for walking out on his family, or do you understand the brainwashing of a cult is just that severe to where he believed and clung on to every word of Jodi Hildebrandt and her constituents at Connections? Let me know. This has been Lindsay Unfiltered. Bye now.